This person writes, I'm an insanely big MMA fan, but I'm a very casual boxing fan that only recently started paying close attention to the sport. Okay. So, as you can imagine, hearing that this person writes, legendary Max Kellerman was making his return and hearing all the fans rave about him got me excited. However, personally, I think that was not a great showing from him at all. From all the Dana Turkey deep throating to the weird discrediting of the state of boxing in front of a boxing crowd at the presser to the, in my opinion, very mediocre and even bad questions he was asking Canelo in the post fight interview, all made me question how fans cared so much about his return. Do you agree with my sentiments? Am I being too harsh? I do not think you are necessarily being too harsh. No, I don't think that. I don't think that at all. I think the reality is, hold on, let's see here. Okay. Um, okay. So early in the week, and even before that, they did that one introductory presser, I think a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, whenever it was, when they announced that he was going to be part of the broadcast. He was deep throating back then, too. So you knew that was coming. Um, and then he did it all week, which was extremely off putting to the point where even Canelo kind of got sick of it, as you indicated, rightly. And then on fight night, I'll be honest, I turn on the broadcast and I'm kind of half listening. And if you're half listening, he sounded great. Except, to your point, he kept just like glazing the shit out of TKO. It's like, dude, John Anik works for TKO too and wasn't doing any of that. Like, why are you doing it? Like, John Anik has worked for UFC and, more broadly now, obviously TKO for much longer than anyone. I mean, like way longer than most people who've ever worked there. And he wasn't doing that. He was just calling a fight. I thought John Anik did a great job. I know some boxing fans kind of objected because they call him the voice of the UFC. I think if you're a boxing fan, that's a fair opinion to have. I don't share it. I thought he did a great job. And he clearly did a shit ton of homework and was off to the races. He works for that company long term and doesn't even do that. So like that was extremely weird to me, but I was kind of half listening. And if you were half listening, it's like, oh yeah, man, good old Max Kellerman. This part of it anyway sounds nice. And I even tweeted, it sucks that he's like glazing so bad because he's a damn good boxing commentator. And I didn't think anything of it. Then I revisited like the comments on the tweet later, and there was a bunch of people who were like, "No, he's terrible. What are you talking about? Blah blah blah." And I was like, "How bad was he?" Because remember, when I'm doing the watch along for the co-main and the main, I can't really hear them. I did hear the questions after the fact, and I thought those were bad. And we'll talk about it in a second. Um, but then I went back to listen to like some of the commentary for the fights themselves, like to rewatch them. And yeah, it wasn't great. Like he kept talking about Canelo landing upstairs over and over again, like how that might. It was good to mention once, but he mentioned it like 5 times. And it's like, okay, like why are you keeping it? Here's the best that I can tell you. That's not the Max Kellerman from HBO Boxing. Like, that's not. That's not him. That guy had issues too. No commentator is perfect, but that guy was good. And in part, he was good because he had editorial independence. Something that, again, it's not even UFC at this point. Like, I don't know where you could work in TV and have any kind of editorial independence. That's just not the ball game anymore. The ball game has changed. If you want editorial independence, you got to do what I'm doing, right? Like, that's just where it is. But okay, fine. Even with that, he did that over the top in like really off-putting ways. He did that over the top in really off-putting ways. And then the commentary itself felt nervous and rushed to a degree. Um, and the questions after the fact, where he always took the long dramatic pause, but now he was doing it like extra long. And I don't know, he looked a little nervous to me. So I think partly what happened was he was a little rusty. I just don't think he'd done this in a while, and it showed to me. So I don't know if he's going to be that bad going forward. But when you combine the rustiness with like the insane over the top, like for Turkey and TKO, and then on top of it, just I don't know, man. Like maybe he lost his fastball. I don't know. I can just tell you he was sharp, incisive, clever, interesting, parsimonious, all the things you would want a knowledgeable, all the things you would want a boxing commentator to be. He just was off. I don't know what's left of his game, but assuming he can get some of it back and be cool, at a bare minimum, he was off of that. That's just not the same guy from HBO. I don't know how else to tell you. It's just not. That's just not the same guy from HBO. Completely different person. Luke, after seeing Crawford do what he did to Canelo, it really solidified a theory of mine that I've had for a while, and one I've only recently seen gain a lot of traction online. The theory is as follows. Unless a fighter is noticeably undersized for the division they're known for fighting at, moving down in weight almost always results in much harder fights and more frequently a losing record, whereas moving up in weight almost always results in more success and more frequently a winning record. This is referred to as lighter man's skill, where the lighter fighters are much better and more high level than the heavier guys, which almost always has a bigger impact on this difference in weight. Here's the evidence. He goes through Poirier, Oliveira, Showtime, all became champions at 55. Volk moves up and gives the greatest 55 ever the most competitive fight of his career. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess that's right. Burns and Masvidal were nothing burgers at 55, move up, and they're better at 70. But it's a little more than that. Strickland, Gastelum, Whitaker moving up from 70, and he goes on to a bunch. Out of all the two division champs, 9 of them attained it by moving up in weight. Only one to go down is Couture. When they lose, it's almost always because they A, didn't bulk up properly, or B, faced generational fighters. What do you think of this theory? Do you agree? Is it something to keep in mind heading into JDM versus Islam and Wiley versus Shevchenko? Yeah, I mean, but there's also a bit of a selection bias, right? I mean, you're picking people who are like, oh, they were nothing at 55. So, for example, let's take Burns. Burns was nothing at 55 and then became really good at 70. That's true, but first of all, he was cutting a shit ton of weight. So like what he was at 55 as just an in terms of what he's athletically capable of is very different than what he's athletically capable of at 70 due to the cut and then the attending other sacrifices and shortcomings that it creates. So like, it's not apples to apples in terms of that. You know what I mean? So there's an issue. Like, this is what I mean. You're like, oh, when guys go down in weight, it doesn't result. Well, who goes down in weight? To me, the kind of person who goes down in weight is the kind of person who is not, I mean, they might be doing well enough, but they're like, okay, Paul Craig went down in weight. Paul Craig has some good wins, and I've talked very nicely about his career, and I mean all of it. But like, if we are asking about his relevancy to the championship picture, it's nowhere to be found. Yes, he did beat Jamal Hill, he beat Magomed Ankalaev, but not in a way where he's able to move himself up the ranks and then fight them at the top to achieve the sport's highest ends. Again, this is not the sum total of his career, but if we're just speaking about this particular consideration, that's the kind of person who typically goes down in weight. You get your TJ Dillashaw trying to do 125, which was extremely ill-advised, but in general, that's the profile of a fighter who typically goes down in weight, again, with some exceptions like Couture here or there. The kind of fighter who goes up in weight tends to be one seeking a healthier balance, and two, part of them going up in weight is not just giving themselves a better chance at being a fully ready athlete. It's also probably happening at a stage in their career where they're, a bit of a crossroads and they're trying to figure out what's best for them. And so they're reaching a new level of skill development as well, and that's why you're getting these guys who go up and then they become either champions or very high level contenders as part of a maturation that's happening there. Again, what kind of profile of a person goes up in weight? It tends to be somebody who can excel up at that weight, right? And so it's not just one-to-one, like lighter guys are always better. There is obviously an enormous amount of truth. It's a contributing factor for sure, but I just want to point out there's also a bit of self-selection involved in the kind of fighter who wants to go up because they think going up in weight gives them a greater chance of success versus the kind of fighter who wants to go down in weight because they perceive that to be giving them the greatest chance at success. And these are usually the kinds of fighters that are separated by potentially very considerable distances in terms of what they're ultimately able to achieve. So don't forget that factor as well. Some of the other factors that you list are all relevant and good. I totally agree. But there's another kind of thing at the front end of this equation that shouldn't be lost.